very good evening to all of you. I formally welcome you to the roundtable discussion. It's the first time ever that we're holding a virtual session, but I'd like to believe it's a blessing in disguise, as earlier we would limit it to Delhi NCR, and because of the time and the distance. So now that is taken care of. So we have everybody joining in. Smart Vocab Challenger had its humble beginning as a contest from creating awareness among students on the nuances and appropriate expression in English in 2003. It has been held every year thereon. We've had over 2 lakh students who've taken the test. We've been trying to venture out into some new cities, and after successfully completing our trial run in Bombay, Raipur, and Kolkata, we are now national this year. And thanks to COVID 19, we've also fully digitalized our platform and we're live virtually now. I extend a special welcome to the Secretary General of SVC Guild, Ms. Dolly Haryal. She's been a distinguished educationist herself. She's an administrator. She's been an administrator, a vice principal of leading schools in Delhi. She's a known author and now spends most of her time doing social work. We consider ourselves extremely fortunate to have her as our Secretary General since the inception.
English is in a typical boys' boarding school, which is pretty, kind of vigorously aggressive. It's not considered to be, too macho. It isn't macho. We are actually sort of, facing a lot of challenge when it comes to communication, and especially when it comes to communicating in English. Repeatedly over the years, I mean, this is something that we've been trying to drill home, and that is that, in today's day and age, communication is so important. Your entire personality is kind of, condensed to your tongue. You'll be known by the rest of the world, the way you speak, what you speak, and, things like that.
Listening is an important component of learning. A student's ability to actively listen has a major impact on building communication skills. Active listener show verbal and non-verbal signs of listening.
There's a change in perception, how English is viewed. Now there is a segregation. English is become more like a language in which you conduct business in multinationals. But the vernacular rules the corridors. Vernacular rules the classrooms. We have to start viewing it as a foreign language and not expect them to know it from birth. So maybe a change in our methodology, maybe a change in our perception.
I used to be a student. My principal used to say that, yes, you have to excel in your academics and sports. But she always used to say, your marks are not written here. It is the way you communicate, you get a hold with with the person you are talking to. So that is the power of communication. Relearn from the kind of communication skills they have.
Are we looking to, are we looking at standardization, or are we looking at, setting standards? Language, as is the custom with life, I mean, it evolves, it kind of sort of metamorphoses, it kind of dichotomizes, it changes. And, over the years, I mean, what was relevant during Elizabethan age, let's say, for instance, or Shakespeare with English, I mean, it's not relevant today. I mean, it doesn't, of course, I mean, it has got certain literary genius. I mean, there's no denying that. But then, I mean, that language probably wouldn't hold in today's time. Kind of reprimand them for the language that they're using. I don't know. But then nobody is perfect. I mean, if you if you think of Shakespeare, I mean, Shakespeare was guilty of double comparatives. The most unkindest cut of all. I mean, he says in Julius Caesar, in Tempest, he says, I think, the Duke and his more braver daughter. So, I mean, this is something that we also need to kind of, sort of reflect on. One is, grammatical dogmatism and obscurantism. And I think it's time, we should actually not get entrapped and ensnared by something that's called as functional fixedness. As is true with life, so is true with language. What is black and white? We should stop getting suspicious and skeptical of neutral tones. We should accept the language that is being spoken by the generation today. And we must try or make an attempt to actually kind of understand what the young are trying to tell us.
In a boarding school where girls, we have all girls there, they've come from various places, they've got their own cultural baggage. And with the cultural baggage, you also bring a lot of vocabulary, which is sometimes accepted, sometimes not acceptable.
Lowering down our standards and of accepting mistakes and going by feelings and emotions. I just would like to ask our esteemed panelists, the others over here, that other disciplines, would they lower their standards? Has maths reduced their level of difficulty, made their formulas easier, physics, science, chemistry? Why are we talking of lowering down our own standards? We are here to teach them a language.
First, we have to make the base of the child to inculcate the interest of the child in that language.
I would like to also answer a question that you posed, saying, do we dilute mathematics or sciences, but we may not dilute it because they're very precise subjects, but we do integrate it with modern technology. Need of the hour to make requisite changes even in languages.
We are discussing about Generation Z. As educators, we know that communication skill like creativity or collaboration or critical thinking is one of the 4 21st century skills which is very important. I know there are many educators as well who use a lot of informal language with the children to look cool to their students. So simplicity in the language, brevity and clarity in communication by the educators can never be overstated. Strengthening the bond between the teachers and the students and even the other stakeholders that we come in contact with. So communication, we know, is not always innate. It could be learned, it could be acquired. And basically, being an effective communicator, the children always look up to us. So it's essential to be an effective individual, first and foremost, to deliver effective communication to the children.
Communication is such an important aspect. Let me tell you that I feel like the students who can communicate so well and the others who can't, they feel quite depressed in front of them, and somehow they feel embarrassed sometimes.
We can't have rigid rules and then expect children to be confident speakers. So if they don't develop the confidence in the classroom, they will develop it elsewhere. And if it's not coming from the classroom, in that scenario, what will happen is, if they're not in love with the subject, then forget the rules, forget everything. They're not going to study the subject.
Use of idioms, and this is missing from our side also as teachers. We are the role models. So our English teachers are not using idioms, proverbs. So we have to use first, then only we'll expect.
In school, because our subjects are taught in silos, you know, I mean, how can we talk about language and not talk about history, not talk about culture? And because we teach all of these, and it's not about reducing the standard of teaching, but it's the way we teach. We teach subjects without interlinking them. But that's not how we learn.
Could falling standards also be attributed to the fact, like Vinisha also had brought out this point in her own way, that English, we are not integrating it into the other disciplines. So that if you are a history teacher or a science teacher and you're looking at any kind of inputs from the children, you are only referring to certain keywords and you feel, okay, now the concept is done, okay, give them the marks. You are not trying to see if they are following the proper English, aspects of the area.
Needs to be there, but at the same time, the generation kid will have his own style. He will do things in his own way. He lives in a world which is different than what the world that we grew up in. So you can't expect him to follow the same practices. Communication is a slightly bigger thing than language. It also involves listening. It also involves having a cultural context to what is being said. So these skills still need to be taught, and whether they're taught in a very forthright manner or they're imbibed in the environment, I think is a question that we leave to the teachers and to the existing educationists here. So it's been a very, very interesting discussion. I think I personally learned so much from this, and there were so many aspects which I didn't realize. Also been, I think, Giraj, you would remember that, whenever we have had our previous discussions also, we've been very, very impressed by the depth of commitment and the depth of knowledge that our educators bring to the children. And that is extremely, extremely sort of, very, very gratifying to us. And we're really grateful for all of you to